All right, guys, hopefully you had a chance to try this. In this video, I will work it out in case you had any discrepancies between the solutions that I posted. So if you got all the answers right on the solutions, you don't need to watch this video. If you didn't, or you just want a little extra explanation, feel free to watch. All right, so here we have Beehive Company. They have the following per unit cost data for 5,000 units of production. We'll need that in a second. Answer the following questions. And if you want to, you could probably start here and identify what would be variable, what would be fixed. Look for those keywords. Rent, we said that's always fixed. DMDL, we said those are always variable costs, right? And then you have indirect materials and indirect labor. They behave just like the direct counterparts. So these first four are all variable costs. Okay, so we've already identified, based on our knowledge, what's variable and what is fixed. Answer the following questions. Round to decimal points when necessary. If 6,000 units are produced, what is the variable cost per unit? Now remember, it doesn't matter how many units are produced. You could even cross that out if you want, because the variable cost per unit never changes. It doesn't matter how many units are produced when you're asking for it per unit. If you were asking for it in total, different case. Here they're asking per unit. Go back to the example we did. The per unit was constant. We know, based on our knowledge, that the variable cost per unit is always constant. So they're just trying to trick you here. Okay, doesn't matter. So go ahead and add up your variable costs that we've already identified, those first four items, and you should get $26. And it's going to be the same because your variable cost per unit is always constant. Okay, tricky hobbitses trying to trick you with that. All right, number C. If 6,000 units are produced, what is the fixed cost per unit? All right, the fixed cost per unit will change. And we remember that from this video we did earlier where it changed. The more units produced, the lower the cost, and we know the cost decreases the more units. So that one will change. Fair play to them. All right, so here we're going to need to do some calculations. So first we need to figure out for this one, what is our total fixed cost? Then we're going to have to divide that, use the formula we had. Take your total fixed cost, divide by the number of units produced, which they give you, right? They give you the units produced here in part C. So first we need to figure out what's our total fixed cost. Remember I said we're going to need that 5,000, multiply 5,000 times 5. Okay, so we get total fixed costs of 25,000. So your formula here, 25,000, you're using your average fixed cost formula. So we take our total fixed cost, divide by units produced, divide by the 6,000. I think we will need to round. You're going to have a decimal here of $4.17. Do the same thing now, but for 8,000. So 25,000 divide by 8,000 to get your average fixed cost. Should be less, and you should get about $3.13. Don't worry if you're a penny or so off. Rounding. All right, so we answered A through D. Now we're on E. If 6,000 units are produced, what is the total fixed cost? Tricksy hobbitses. All right, I'm just going to cross that out since I don't need it because we know that total fixed cost doesn't change, right? Total fixed cost doesn't change regardless of the number of units produced. So again, they're just trying to confuse you by giving you all these different units. We remember our definition of total fixed cost, that it stays constant. Total fixed cost was 25,000. Done. Okay. Gosh, that would be mean if they just did like a whole string of questions of what if it's 2,000, 3,000, what's total fixed cost? It's always the same. So they're just testing to make sure you're concrete in your knowledge of cost behavior. Okay. If 6,000 units are produced, what is the total manufacturing overhead costs? All right, total manufacturing overhead costs. I got 55,000. Now let's back into that. Okay, so this one is testing what we learned in topic 2.1. So go back, manufacturing overhead costs. Okay, if you've got that, great. If not, let's work through it. So go back to topic 2.1. We said Mo was made up of 3 different items: indirect materials, indirect labor, and other. Other can be rent, utilities, depreciation, etc. Look, you have indirect materials here of 2. You have indirect labor of 3. We have rent onto the factory, so that would be other. Okay. So that's $10 of Mo, manufacturing overhead costs. So how did I get? Oh, because that was per unit. Hang on. That was per unit for 5,000. Now it's going to be 6,000, but it's irrelevant. All right, 25,000. I'll just add that at the end. Okay, so this is 5 times 6,000. So we're going to do it separately, piecemeal. So this gives us 30. Okay. Tricksy hobbitzes. The thing is, we have to remember this is only considered in total. Okay. So don't get confused and put the per unit in. So that gives us 30. Add your 25. That's how we get 55,000. Tricksy hobbitzes. You had to go back and remember what topic 2.1 was so that we know what's classified as manufacturing overhead. And then the second kind of complexity was realizing that this, even though they're giving it to us per unit, the rent is constant. It's 25,000. So it doesn't matter if it's 6,000 or 8,000. That only matters for the items that are variable. Okay. All right. And now let's go down to H. If 8,000 units are produced, what is the total manufacturing cost? Okay, so your total manufacturing cost is going to include everything. We know we won't make that mistake again of like going through. We'll just remember this gets added at the very end. So plus 25,000 for rent. So make sure that you have your DM, DL, indirect materials, indirect labor. We already calculated all that to be 26. 26 times 8,000. Since those items vary in proportion to the level of units produced. So if the units produced are 8,000, 26 times 8,000 gives us, do some math. We're going to get 208,000 plus the 25,000. We get 233. So 233 is your answer for H. Okay, because manufacturing cost is everything, right? It's your DM, DL, and Mo. Mo is your indirect materials, labor, and rent. Then you have to separate what's variable, which was the first 3, which was the $26. So 26. These are variable, so it's going to hinge on how many units are produced. So 26 times 8,000, that's what we get. The fixed cost does not matter how many units are produced. It's always 25,000. So that's how we got the 233. All right, now using all this information, I know, workings of a mad woman up here, develop a cost equation for the company. So go back to your cost equation, right? So we're just doing the cost equation. We're leaving units out and total fixed costs. We're just giving them something they can use for planning. So their total cost is going to be equal to their fixed cost plus their variable cost per unit times the number of units. Now let's fill in what we can based on this information. Do we know their fixed cost? Yep, total fixed cost 25,000. So here's their equation, equals 25,000. What's their variable cost per unit? 26, variable cost per unit. 26, and then again, it's going to depend on the number of units. And think about it, that's what we did to answer number H. We did their fixed cost plus their variable cost times the number of units. So we provided managers with a cost equation that they can use for planning. Now in this last one, they're saying go ahead and use that equation to predict how much company the cost will be when it's 9,000 units. You should get $259,000 from using that formula. Total cost equals 25,000. So to show you your work, plus 26 times 9,000 units. That's how you got it. All right, good work. If that was troublesome for you, there's some additional examples of that in the book at the end of the chapter, so you can try those, and let me know if you have questions, please.